Are governments really protecting your financial freedom, or quietly taking it away? What if the biggest financial theft in history wasn't committed by criminals, but by systems people trust every day? Governments promise stability, growth, opportunity. But throughout history, rulers have repeatedly used the same financial tricks to transfer wealth upward while keeping ordinary people dependent. And the most disturbing part, the tricks never really change, only the language does. From ancient Rome to modern central banks, history reveals a pattern most people never notice until it's too late. Inflation, debt, bailouts, currency debasement, hidden taxation, different centuries, same mechanism. Because financial systems are often designed not to make citizens free, but manageable. If you want to understand how power really works, subscribe to Empire and Economy, because history doesn't just explain the past, it explains the world you're living in right now. The oldest financial trick in history is inflation. When governments spend more money than they can collect through taxes, they face a dangerous choice: raise taxes openly, or secretly reduce the value of money itself. Ancient Rome mastered this strategy. In the 3rd century AD, Roman emperors began reducing the silver content inside the denarius. At first, citizens barely noticed. The coin looked the same. But eventually, what had once been nearly pure silver became mostly copper, covered by a thin layer of silver. The empire pretended nothing had changed. But everyone holding those coins became poorer. Prices exploded, savings evaporated, wages failed to keep up. It was taxation without openly calling it taxation. And today, the same mechanism still exists, only the tools have changed. Imperial mints became central banks. What happens when governments cannot fund themselves honestly? During the Middle Ages, European monarchs developed another financial trick: forced loans. Kings in England, France, and Spain pressured wealthy merchants and guilds to lend money to the crown. Officially, it was framed as patriotism, duty, loyalty to the kingdom. But refusal often meant punishment, confiscation, or imprisonment. And even when repayment was promised, the money frequently returned late, devalued, or never returned at all. The state protected itself first. Citizens carried the risk. Government debt becoming institutionalized wealth transfer. By the 17th century, the trick evolved into something far more sophisticated. The financial system itself became the mechanism. In 1694, Britain created the Bank of England to finance war against France. Wealthy investors lent money to the government by buying bonds. And in return, the state guaranteed interest payments funded through taxes. But here's the critical question: who actually paid those taxes? Ordinary people. Taxes on salt, beer, cloth, daily necessities. The wealthy earned stable returns by financing the state. The public financed those returns through labor and consumption. Modern government finance was born, and that structure still dominates the world today. 2008 financial crisis. Modern governments rarely speak the language of sacrifice. Instead, they speak the language of stimulus, stability, and rescue. But behind the words, the mechanism often remains the same. Governments accumulate enormous debts, promising prosperity and growth. Yet much of the money flows toward defense contractors, corporate subsidies, and financial institutions. And when crises arrive, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. In 2008, banks took reckless risks, nearly collapsed the global financial system, and were rescued using taxpayer money. The public absorbed the losses. The financial elite recovered faster than ever. The message was clear. Profits remain private. Losses become public. Who benefits first when money is created? After 2008, central banks introduced a policy most people had never heard before: quantitative easing. Trillions of dollars were created to stabilize financial markets. And technically, it worked. Stocks surged, real estate climbed, asset prices exploded upward. But who owned those assets? Mostly the wealthy. Meanwhile, ordinary households faced rising living costs, distorted housing markets, and declining purchasing power. The system was stabilized, but inequality accelerated. Because when new money enters the economy, it rarely reaches everyone equally. Complexity hides wealth transfer. Modern financial systems are so complex that most people stop trying to understand them, and that may be intentional. Tax codes thousands of pages long, financial instruments few can explain, budgets buried under acronyms and hidden programs. Complexity creates camouflage, because if citizens cannot follow the flow of money, they cannot recognize the transfer of wealth happening in front of them. In ancient Rome, debased coins revealed the trick physically. Today, the tricks are hidden behind spreadsheets, balance sheets, and technical language. But the result remains the same. History reveals a pattern repeated across centuries. Rome inflated away its currency. Monarchs forced loans. Modern governments expand debt and print money. Different eras, same logic. Transfer the burden quietly. Protect the system first. Push the costs onto the public. And the most powerful trick of all? Convincing people this is simply normal. Because when populations stop studying history, they stop recognizing manipulation. Financial education becomes resistance. Economic history becomes a weapon. So the next time governments announce stimulus, ask who benefits first. When inflation rises, remember it is not always an accident. When regulations appear, ask who wrote them, because systems are designed first to preserve themselves. And history shows that the financial tricks draining your bank account today are often the same tricks used thousands of years ago, only hidden behind modern language. If you found this perspective valuable, subscribe to Empire and Economy, because the past explains the future far better than politicians ever will.